Hello and welcome back to Founders on the Beat. It is great to be back once again, sitting down with founders and exploring how they're helping people live better lives. January is the time when people set their intentions for the year, including what they consume, which is why this episode is very apt. Join me in a conversation with Arsen a young and budding entrepreneur whose artisanal olive oil brand Arsenio is redefining quality consumption. Discover what actually makes a good olive oil and how ancient traditions merge with new innovations to bring together science and art in a stunning blend. Again, Arsen, thank you so much for joining me today. So the questions I'm going to go over, like I said, pretty straightforward. So I'm just going to start off with you. You're one of Italy's youngest winemakers, as well as the founder of an artisanal olive oil company, Arsenio Ora. I'm saying it right,
Yeah.
aren't I? It's Arsenio Ora.
Yes. Yes, correct.
But before that, you were a mathematician. So I'm just trying to understand the jump between the two. Like, I know your original background was in maths, was it? Can you tell
Yes.
your story that prompted you to make this leap?
Yeah, it's actually starts a bit in a more complicated way. I'm a chef. I was working in some Michelin star restaurants. I was before I was working just very good restaurants. Then I went to Michelin star restaurants when I was much younger. I was about during summertime because I had school and for me cooking was and still is part of my life. And then during school, because mathematics was something which I always loved and it's something I want to continue, not now, but a bit later, I start using the mathematical models to design the plates. So for each of my dish, and this where my first paper for my IB came from, actually from my cooking, because I was just discovering how the 3D shapes when you increase the dimension and also the power of your equation, how it changes the shape in a different dimension. And it was very interesting one playing with prime numbers, like any mathematicians like to play with prime numbers. And
Yeah.
then of course I went to university. I decided at NYU I of course went to pure mathematics because honestly mathematicians in general we're sometimes being very pedantic on the
Hmm.
on the way of how I was doing pure mathematics, not applied. Because if you ask a person who studies pure mathematics, if you're doing applied, they will be very offended about that because
Oh,
of course,
wow.
I'm not going
Okay.
to apply the yeah, because it's uh, I was doing mathematics just for sake of science. I really like just sit down and just solve problems or understand
Hmm.
problems. And when I finished NYU, I graduated from there. I was supposed to do masters in Waseda University in Japan because I was doing major in mathematics, pure mathematics, and Japanese language. And I got placed in Waseda University in Tokyo, and COVID started. And the Waseda University wrote me that, look, we don't allow international students to enter a country because of COVID, and you will do online. And I said, okay, like I cancel my masters because what's the point to do masters in Japan if you're not in Japan? And at that point of time, I already opened the company. I opened a company in Italy, like the startup with agriculture. And I said, okay, probably this is fate, or we call it whatever you want, but uh, I I will fully plunge into the viticulture and enology. And this how it started. Why wine? Because when you in the restaurants, especially Michelin star restaurants, you always think about not just about your dish, but also how you're going to pair it. And that's why
Hmm.
wine and alcohol always like they were around me. And I really like alcohol. I never been drunk in my life. I really drink alcohol for sake of taste. I like every alcohol, like whiskey a lot. I will drink mostly whiskey if I'm alone, but like vodka, it really depends on time, time,
Yes.
weather, people who you talk with, and I surely like agree that you shouldn't overconsume alcohol, but I think it's a humanity's kind of know-how. It's
Yeah.
really kind of this one of our best collaborations between nature and humankind, because as you can see with climate change, we don't really collaborate well with with nature at all.
Jimdo.
Um, and That's why I was thinking, because of my background, I'm Armenian. I never lived in my home, my motherland. I always was traveling, living between different countries, and I think this kind of something inside me. I was thinking about the roots to keep to leave something behind, because like the roots of my nation were nearly ripped off during genocide,
Yes.
and I thought what I want to do, which can go into generations. And I start
Hmm.
looking, okay, restaurants is something it can live for long, but who knows with what will happen. But then I start looking into history of wine, different chateaus, and I saw, wow, there are some which are pretty old. And I thought, okay, I'll go there. It's very close to the things that I like, fermentation, chaos. I try to use now more and more, especially I just graduated in ISVV in Bordeaux. I got my master's in enology and viticulture.
Wow.
Hopefully, yeah, I want to do. I will see with time, but next year I will maybe apply for PhD in enology, also in Bordeaux. But I thought, okay, if I do this, I need to fully go into that. So I start looking online what schools there are for sommeliers. So I done WCT diploma. Now I'm on my way. I'm doing my master sommelier. Now I'm thinking to start probably. I have some time to apply for master of wine, and then I said, okay, that's one thing. Sommelier, it's you taste, you more or less you think you understand wine because you know the regions, you know the climates, uh, but it's still not that deep. That's why I decided to look what are the programs around the world where I can really become an enologist. Because a lot of people like to say today, I'm an enologist, I'm a winemaker because I just made wine once or twice and it worked out. But you cannot, you really need to study because it's a lot of biochemistry, a lot of chemistry,
Yeah.
uh, so because when it works out well, it's all right. But then you ask a question to a winemaker. So if your temperature starts to increase like drastically in just in 1 hour, what you will do? How you would, what do you expect to have? What volatile aromas will appear or disappear? And they will not answer that because you need to know chemistry. You need to really study that.
Yeah, of
And I knew that I
course.
need to study that too. So this why I went into this whole story. It's something between science and I would say this kind of culinary creativity, but
Yes.
I'm also being realistic because some people say, "Oh, wine is art. I don't want to do analysis." Like, sorry, no, you need to do analysis.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't, when they say they don't do analysis, they surely do analysis because if you don't do analysis,
Yeah.
you don't know how to stabilize your wine during aging. If you age it, you need to stabilize it just in case. And this how it happened. With olive oil, it was even more sudden because you plant your vineyards, you need to wait for 3 years until you get the first 30% of your harvest. And Tuscany, like my vineyards were fully surrounded by olives. I saw there were
Yes.
some people coming to my land. When I just started, I was 19. So I had some
Wow.
help of my friends who were just collecting olives, and I said, okay, stop, stop, stop. I want to understand how it works. So you just collect all the olives, you press it, I taste it, and for me it was it's all right. And then I start thinking, okay, let's first understand varieties because of course there should be varieties because people even today they think olive oil is just like one olive, but there's 100 varieties, 100 different aroma taste profiles. And I spent a year with some people from agriculture university coming to my lands and checking all the olives and differentiating varieties. So we marked all the olives we had around that point of time. around 400 olive trees, and we marked all of them. So we start harvesting each olive variety separately. That was a difference
Hmm.
which we were making, and pressing them separately. And then doing like a Bordeaux blend. When you make a final blend, you press them separately, you see their positive, negative things about the olive oil, if it's like intense, spicy, less spicy, and different aroma profiles, and then you blend it. And this why our blend is a bit different, because usually how any company would do, you harvest everything like my friends were doing. They were using my olives initially before I created the brand. Harvest everything at one time, press it, that's your blend. But uh, it's a bit sad. You lose potential of the flavor. So yeah,
Yes.
it was more or less like that.
Wow. I'm just processing all of that. And I know that coming from such like a scientific background, I will say this. I think that the art, like I do think there's an art to winemaking and olive oil making, but I do think as well they're both perfect examples of where art very much needs science. Like the two
Truly,
are
yes.
not at odds, but they actually do exist within equilibrium. Like if you look at some of the greatest artists of the past, they were also, I mean, like Leonardo da Vinci, who was a polymath, he was also a master in science and mathematics.
Yeah,
Like he had that interest because he appreciated what they could do for each other as well. And just reading into the olive oil making industry, it's an industry that's enshrined in ancient history and practices that have been cultivated over millennia. Like it's not something
yeah,
that just happened overnight. People paid very close attention to the methodologies to then refine them, to then refine that taste. And
yeah,
it is a form of art. I think it's one of the highest forms of art because it so
truly.
beautifully blends in chemistry and math. But I know that, you've talked about mathematicians love solving problems, right? And I
Yeah,
can definitely see that problem solving mindset in you that's brought you into the world of olive oil making.
yeah,
And I know one particular problem continues to be pervasive in the olive oil market, and that is olive oil fraud, which I
yeah,
actually had no idea existed until a few months ago. But obviously, there's this false marketing around, extra virgin pressed olive oil, et cetera, et cetera. And I know that some companies, some brands like to take shortcuts um, and claim that they're selling pure olive oil, and then it turns out it's not. I actually read about how this kind of fraud led to the deaths of hundreds of people in Spain in the 1980s. I think they put in another kind of oil. Um,
yeah.
so I'd actually love to hear your thoughts as an olive oil company founder on how consumers should navigate this. What should we look out for when we're in a supermarket?
Hmm. I know I would say, of course, there are some basic things. It's about the labeling, that you need to really read the label at the back to know where this producer based. If there's a couple of companies which are like a middleman, if it was just a company who sourced the olives, and they press, if it's a company based, let's say, in country A, and they source
Hmm.
the olives from country B, because they must state where they are sourcing their olives and where they are based. And if there's a difference, uh, it can still work, but you need to find their website, you need to find their Instagram. It's uh, I would say when I do different work. It's of course wine and olive oil is one big part of my things I'm doing, but I have other projects. And I sometimes, when I start a project, I like to call people. I like to say, look, I'm real, because you write the email, and when some nobody writes to you about, oh, I want to do this with your company, and
Yes.
I call them, and I try to even organize a in-person meeting that they know I'm a real person, because I face the fraud. I even face the fraud for selling. Like when the company tells you, oh, we want to buy your olive oil, they buy your olive oil, and then you can send your. I know a couple of cases when you send olive oil to this importer, and they never pay. They just disappear, and they use some not real company to
Oh,
saying, "Oh,
wow.
we are famous." You look at their website, it's more or less legit. But to really find out if they're real or not, you need to write to this governmental body to check their VAT and all their like bureaucratic numbers, like which you have for each company, and then you find out that no, it doesn't work out. So it's all around. It's not just about the production where you can find the fraud. It's everywhere around it. So I would say find their Instagram, find their website, because any mm, like you also it's pretty good. Honestly, one of the ways you can make, like I would say, 99.9% good choice if you check if this olive oil was in any good like big competitions in olive oil in industry, like New York competition, Tokyo competition, Berlin, London. Usually when you apply there, because we do it every year, they ask all your information about your company, your analysis, and you cannot really fake it, because if you're a fraudster, they will already find out that you're a fraudster, and you won't be able
Yeah.
to go to the competition. But if a bottle of olive oil, which you buy in the shop, and you can see they have been in this competition, like I would say nearly 100%, this is surely real olive oil, because if this competition took it and they got gold, and this is competition with real sommeliers, it's should be legitimate. So
Yeah.
sadly, you need to go through social media, I would say, through websites, because labels, I tend to read labels, but I don't know. Sometimes the laws, okay, in Europe, I know what's going on, what you need to write at the back. But if you go to America, to the US, or you go to China, I'm not sure what is the minimum amount you can write at the back of a label, because when you import the olive oil, maybe there's different rules than from Europe, and maybe you can
Yes.
skip some things. So that's why, yeah, you should read the label, but maybe the more efficient way is just try to find this producer. Like really from social media. If you cannot find their website, you cannot find their Instagram, or if it's like an Instagram with 2 followers, probably it's a dodgy one,
Mm.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously navigating those, those different market regulations is super tricky. And I think as well, like as someone who buys olive oil, it can be incredibly frustrating as well. Like especially if you're short on time and you're rushing through the supermarket and it's like I just want to know what I'm consuming is good, but quickly. There's that issue as well. So it's actually piqued my curiosity because I know Arsenio prides itself on being an artisanal brand, and also I believe that the way that you communicate the how the brand works, how the company itself works, you promote transparency, don't you?
Yeah.
So on your own labels, for instance, like what has been your modus operandi in terms of, creating your own labels to try and change the standard at which, these bottles are marketed and sold?
We try, I think we start integrating this 2 years ago. We start putting the the date when analysis was made on this particular olive oil, showing the polyphenols and acidity. One of the
Hmm.
two really important factors, which are uh, they are not required to put at the back label, but we put them, and we put the date, because it's important with the date when it was made, because of course, due to microoxidation, it will dissipate. But we put this. Is it super useful? Depends, because again, now you can see. I think it's still good information to have, because if you see that, that's what we also sometimes talk about in our Instagram and social medias, that there is a minimum amount of chemical results which you should have for your olive oil, like polyphenol levels. It's about should be more or equal to 250 polyphenol units. And if you see olive oil, if it was obliged to write this kind of information, and if you saw that olive oil which you're buying had at the very beginning, after pressing, 250 polyphenols, probably I would question it, because that means
Okay.
that it's just about to not be qualified as extra virgin olive oil. If they hit the minimum, and probably after, a couple of months, it will go down. It should be, in our case, our average this year was about 500 units, which is twice more. But again, it also depends on variety. Some varieties they have a super high polyphenols, and some producers they say we're a super high polyphenol company. We like produce 1,000, 2,000 units, which is super high. It's like super high, but
Yeah.
it's not all olives can produce it. It's not higher quality. It's just different variety. But I would say Mm, we try, especially when we were selling in China, to show our real analysis, which we
Hmm.
had in Italy and in China. We conduct two analysis just to show them that it's legitimate. But that's the one thing we do. But it's the back label. You always need to change. You need to always change some nuances every year because the EU gives some different rules. But also biological logo is important, I would say, because if they have a biological logo and it's selling
Hmm.
in a legitimate uh, shop where they check your background. You cannot really fake it, biological logo. You are registered, you have a special number uh, above your green leaf logo, which is assigned just to your company. So if you have this logo, you should be legitimate. And if you're selling it in a like in a Waitrose, for example, in London, but if you see a bottle of olive oil with uh, biological logo within a small dodgy shop somewhere in the corner, maybe it could be fake, maybe. Like,
Yeah.
but if it's legitimate shop, I know Sainsbury's, Waitrose, Whole Foods, they surely checked it. Like they
Yes.
must check it. They ask for that,
Okay.
and biological would guarantee that it's much stricter rules what you do.
Yeah.
So
Much higher
yeah,
standards. And I feel like just in general within the EU, the standards around, consumer marketing are just so much stricter.
yeah,
Their
for
consumer
sure.
protection. I think they're the leading region in the world in terms of that from a legal standpoint. So
Yeah, I would agree with that.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I'd reckon it's definitely easier to navigate, authentic olive oil shopping within Europe versus, North America, South America, the Middle East. I can definitely speak about. Um, but I like that at Arsenio, you're promoting that education first approach as well within your marketing, what you're doing on social media, because I do think that information is power, particularly as a consumer. When we know what to look out for, it makes our
Yeah.
lives a lot easier.
Because
Um,
also I would say in general we we try to be uh, to not just look legitimate, but we try really to show the real facts because I'm very picky about the information. When we write anything, I want to have a source of information of the legitimate recent papers which proves that. Not like I don't like the bloggers and information which we eat, like some people consumers eat in Instagram or any social media, which say, oh, this paper said, like, what kind of paper, where you got this link, why is there any other papers which disprove that? You cannot just say one paper shows that carnivore diet is the best. No, like that's why I really because in the scientific world, when you write your thesis, when you write your paper, you must double check. Then when you send your thesis, the the special scientific authority checks and if everything is legitimate, and you really need to be careful because then if you make a mistake, like a stupid mistake, you can be banned from a scientific world. So
yeah,
you cannot make this kind of mistake. But in social media, they don't care because no one will check it. So
no,
that's why for me it's
exactly.
very important. Yeah,
Yes. The ability to critically think, not just blindly consume. I think particularly in this day and age, the age of information where we're just, constantly bombarded with facts and figures. And it's like, okay, but where are they coming from? How have they been
yeah,
validified or validated? Sorry.
yeah,
There's so much more, but obviously not everyone has the same degree of skill set. So I do think as well, like it is brand's responsibility to help with that from an ethical standpoint, but the legal side is still catching up, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah,
My next question is a little bit more of a deep dive, into how Arsenio operates. I know that Arsenio prides itself in preserving millennia-old olive oil making traditions,
yeah.
and you closely collaborate with local farmers within Italy, right? Um,
Yeah, I say we have some lands around us. So we are in Florence, we have a hill where we have our olives, and we have some producers, not producers, we have some lands with olives which are they are producers of families who were doing some olive oil, but now for them it's too expensive to just make it. They just will
okay.
buy it. So we come there, we say, look, we can look after them. We just and or we pay. Usually we don't. We just they ask us to give some olive oil. We give them olive oil after we produce because honestly, for them it's we're looking after their land. But yeah, we do this with some producers around families, producers around us. Yeah,
Yes. May I ask, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but
yeah.
how does this approach, how has it helped promote the transparency that you you so thoroughly stick to as well? Just being able to say that we work with, we work locally, we work on a smaller scale in terms of operations and production. Do you find that this model is more conducive to more transparency?
Which one that we operating with the local ones, local people?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm following.
Because we I would say, if I understand your question right, that we know where the olives come from. Like we know, we just we see those. Because if we just were buying olives from, let's say, Puglia, where it's much cheaper, I don't know from
Hmm.
where they coming from, if they were treated correctly, because we're also organic. So for us, it's important before we even cooperate with anyone who have the olive trees around us. We must go through a process of qualifying this, checking with the special authorities that this is organic.
Yes.
They must provide all these papers. It's more expensive, yes, for sure, but at least like this year we were supposed to produce about 3,000 liters of olive oil. We produced only 1,500.
Oh,
We
wow.
lost a half. We lost half because some of the people they didn't treat their olives at the right time. Uh, we're talking about treatments like with since it's organic, we use and they also use. We also tell them what to use sometimes. It's oils coming from lemons and citrus. They can help to protect from the flies. And this year, because it was very humid and hot, there were much more population of flies, which penetrates the
Hmm.
olives. So when we came there to collect the olives, we said, look, we have a lot of this problem. We cannot take that. So because they must follow some rules and they know if we don't like it, we don't take it. We don't even going to
Yeah.
harvest it. And this was our decision because I don't want to, especially each year we go to competitions. We 2 years already we start to go to competitions. Each year we have only gold, platinum. I don't want to anyhow lose my quality anyhow. I really don't looking
Yes.
for that. So I'm ready to lose quantity, but still have the quality.
Yes. And that, not compromising on that stance, particularly, when you have trusting customers who are expecting a certain
Yeah,
quality as well. I think that's sacred. That is definitely
yeah,
something that will
and
make you stand out as well.
so that's why yeah, it's surely for us it's transparent because we know also people these people usually not usually always yeah because some our team is very young, but some people who do this bureaucratic authority checks. They are usually very old, like not very old, but like they're old, old school, and they have a lot of friends. They have all the people, and this actually how, especially for me as a foreigner, is how my connections are growing because I
Yeah.
meet all of them because they're friends, because they grew up like the same place, their parents know each other. And this is why all of the people we take the olives from, we know them. It's not some random dude we just found around,
Yeah.
but it's a real, yeah, yeah. It's like an old guy, a friend of a friend, and we know like all the history of their land. So this is
Yeah.
how we do.
Yeah. And that's so important, I think. Especially when you're dealing with supply chains, obviously, like from farm to fork and all of that. You want to know who you're dealing with, who's bringing in the goods, how they're handling it, how they're you want to be able to have that trust throughout, right? In order to
Yeah,
build
for
that
sure.
trust with your end consumers, with your end customers. So I really like that as well, that you're paying such close, you're giving so much care to that as well, to actually putting roots in the ground in more ways than one. Say like, yes,
Yeah,
building a presence here also requires building familiarity with who I'm working
yeah,
with who I'm going to be dealing with to ensure that the quality remains not just good, but excellent all the time. Um,
yeah. That's yeah. We'll try.
yeah. Well, I know that, it wasn't Rome wasn't built in a day as well. So I know there's a lot
Yeah,
that
but
you've
no,
probably learned.
Switzerland was built pretty fast. I would say.
That's true.
Yeah, yeah.
That's true.
That's
Um,
that's what I'm striving for. Yeah, Rome was built for
well,
very like it took some time, but Swiss, they were pretty good.
well, kudos to you. Speaking of, learnings, I'd love to know as well, what learnings from winemaking have you taken with you into olive oil making? They're both ancient, deep-rooted traditions in Southern Europe that, beautifully blend science and art. Um, and I know that you're trying to ensure both sides are respected or as Arsenio while also balancing tradition with innovation. What are the key lessons you've brought over?
I would say for sure we more we talk more about vintage variation. That's the olive oil which people get. It's they need to expect it will be different. Different not in
Hmm.
quality, but in a taste and aroma profile and structure, because no, if it was more rain, less rain, droughts, heat waves, it will of course influence the ta final taste, because we use always the same like pressing machine. We always harvest within 24 hours and we press within 24 hours. So this doesn't change, but what changes is weather and like what surrounds us. And that's one of the things which we tell to the customers, because in wine the vintage variation is much more usual thing. It's something actually this term vintage variation I took it from the winemaking because it's something you often see.
Yes, it sounds
Then
distinctly wine.
yeah, it's very posh way of being a bit not even snobbish in a way, which is true because the wine industry is it's like that in a way. Although now there's more young influence going on, but I would say density variation. Then of course technology, yeah, the temperature control and the right timing, because if you go to some olive oil producers, or then you buy olive oil which is made from this stone grinder, like this huge stone wheels where they were grinding like the mash
Amazing.
of the olives. Yeah, it's beautiful story, but the olive oil will be terrible. Like it will not terrible. It's super oxidized, no temperature control. It's beautiful, like story wise, like from for that times, like hundreds of years ago, perfect. Now, no, we have technology which temperature control, the way of how we release the oil, then also the anaerobic condition, so we remove any oxygen because the oxidation is not good for all the world. The final product will really depend on that. One of the faults which I see in all the oils which I try, because I try a lot of them, it's the heat problem. So during the pressing, that there are some machines, if they're not the new ones or the cheaper ones, they don't have the temperature control. So at the point when they press, if they press a lot, the machines start to heat up, and they start to heat up the olive mass, and therefore this heat taint appears in the olive oil. And how you can feel it, it's mm, you lose the taste, and the olive
Yes.
oil becomes fatty. I know it's very strange to hear fatty for olive oil, but you know, if you eat chocolate today, the chocolate today is much like the quality of chocolate is not that good today because we use a lot of palm oil. And if you eat like let's
Yeah.
say Kit Kat, you feel in your mouth this thin film of fat. I don't know
Yeah.
if you had this kind of the same thing
Yeah.
will you will feel with the overheated olive oil. It's like this fatty sensation that it's not cleaning your palate, but it something stays in
Like
your mouth.
coating it.
Yeah, exactly. So this is for me a heat taint, which you can feel a lot in some olive
Wow.
oils. So because olive oil should be fresh. Yeah, it's of course it's fat.
Yeah.
It's olive oil, but it shouldn't be fatty, like in the way of feeling this kind of greasy sensation. So that's for sure also adapted from winemaking because we have temperature control concrete tanks which we use for winemaking because you want to keep your fermentation temperatures at that particular temperature all the time because you know with wine is more chaotic because you have yeast can multiply very fast because
Yeah.
we use only natural yeast so coming from ambient yeast coming from the surroundings from the grapes. And this is much more chaotic because you don't know when the fermentation will start because it can start in 1 day, in 2 days, and it's important to not wait too long. And this is why temperature control is very important because if you want to keep for, let's say, 22 degrees Celsius in 1 day, it's decided to multiply super fast because why? Because he felt, yeah, we are feeling good, we want to multiply fast. And it can temperature can go up to 30, 35. And this one you need to start cooling. And so this one of the adaptation we have from wine. And I will say one of the difference which we have in wine and olive oil. In wine, we reduce the weight of the bottle. So our bottle, we have our own design. We have a patent for our design for
Oh,
our
wow.
wine bottle. Um,
Yeah.
and the weight is about 500 grams, which is lower than usual bottles. Usually the bottles in Italy, especially, or South America and in the US, it's about 750 and more.
Yeah.
Then after uh, Johnson Robinson, I think she wrote about this. I don't remember, but it was in a decanter somewhere that it's unacceptable to have wine which weighs more than 2 kilos
Okay.
because of carbon footprint. It's too heavy. People start
Yeah.
to reducing because it's not eco-friendly. With olive oil, sadly, uh, I would prefer to have a thicker glass because
Okay.
it protects the olive oil better. Because with wine, it's not that super important, but for olive oil, it is critical. And this why, again, we produce very low amount of, we're not mass producers, so our carbon footprint is in general much lower. And we do everything like we don't have much of machinery. We do everything by hand. And I think I would allow for my customers to have a better quality and much longer shelf life by having a thicker glass. That's the difference, which surely you can find. But again, we also try to provide the possibility of refilling because the bottles which we use are very high quality. We use the Italian producers for our glass making in Tuscany. So we are being as green as possible. But again, I'm not ready to reduce the thickness of my glass just because anyway from this year we will probably sell mostly in Europe, so it will be like uh, we're not going to use any boats or any airplanes, so it will be a bit
By
easier.
land.
So yeah, by land. So I would say that's one of the differences. And in general, mm, biodiversity also one of the things because but here I would say it was. coexisting biodiversity, because biodiversity in wine, you can see more and more, you can hear more and more of this word biodiversity in the wine industry, because especially if you're in Bordeaux, you can see just vineyards. There's no
Yeah.
forests, there's no bushes, there's just vineyards. Now they start like Cheval Blanc, they start to adapt the trees in the vineyards. In our case, from the very beginning, we are surrounded by cypresses, pines, olives, rosemary. So this biodiversity was naturally present in Tuscany, and we didn't want to ruin it. So usually, if you see
Yeah.
vineyards in Tuscany in Chianti Classico, you'll see vineyards, forest, olive groves, and I think it's very more more greenish way of doing wine. But I think that's one of the main points I would say what I took from the winemaking to the olives. Yeah,
Those
yeah.
are fascinating points, and it really speaks to what you're talking about earlier, the chemical balance, the understanding of chemistry that needs to go into this. That's not just a matter of like, oh, it's a pretty bottle. Oh, let's,
Yeah,
it's just about the taste. It's also about, the chemistry that goes into it and
sure.
considerations like biodiversity, carbon footprints, and the European Union, where there's so much more scrutiny on that side of operations. Sounds like there's a lot of balancing happening on many fronts as well. So,
All the time, all the time.
so I
Uh,
can
like,
imagine.
yeah, like again, and this what I also like about agriculture. I would never go to a different industry, honestly. For me, agriculture is the industry I want to stay. Surely I want to still do mathematics a bit later, not now. Now it's a bit a busy period, but I need to finish
Mhm.
other things for now. But mathematics later for just like I would say before nap time, just to do some maths. But uh, I would say, for example, this year we had a heat wave during mid-August. I
Yes,
I was traveling to meet some negotiants to Bordeaux. I came back, and the 2 days, I would say, in 2 days, it was 50 degrees Celsius plus in Tuscany, in Florence, and we
50
lost in these two
degrees.
days. Yeah, Celsius, not
We
Fahrenheit.
rarely
So
get that in
people,
Oman, and I come from a desert.
it was 2 days. All the leaves were burned, the middle leaves, which were protecting the grapes. We lost about 6,000 bottles in 2 days.
Oh my God.
So, and you cannot do anything. Like, so we,
No.
fr- it's just we thinking probably next year we're going to use drip irrigation, which we'll use only 1 week a year, because we were doing always dry, and our vineyards, yeah, they can struggle, but they become super concentrated. The only time I need to use irrigation, the drip irrigation, is during the heat wave moment, because it's already sequence. It's not like anomaly. The heat wave already happening 3 times in a year, like in the last 3 years. So every year we have a heat wave. And
Yes.
sadly, yeah, it's already a pattern. So we need to adapt. And that's one of the adaptations. Also, one of the adaptations I used and actually saved. I could lose much more grapes this year if not the nets. I started using nets against the hail because we had
Yeah.
2 years in a row we had hail. But the nets also help to reduce the amount of sunlight which goes into the grapes. So this also helped us to stabilize the overall situation. But this is really pure chaos, and I'm not angry about nature. That's also important point. This is result of humankind, what was happening, and I tried again to adapt. Yeah, I see. Okay, it's devastating for yourself. I know, just you just devastated about things. Think, okay, damn, this happened, but uh, I need to think how to resolve this problem because there must be a solution, and you
Yeah.
always need to. This why the pruning system, the varieties which we plant, I'll try to look much further in the 20, 30 years ahead because what varieties will still work? Because I want, for example, to have wines with no more than 13.5% alcohol. I will not accept for my wines to go above 13.5 because I like when wine can be drank at any time. So you don't need to have food to enjoy wine. And that's why
Hmm.
and to remain in this level, I need to think about the varieties, about what structure of vineyards I want to have. And yeah, it's a lot of things to think about, many variables for sure. Many
Many
variables.
variables, but thank goodness you come from a mathematics background to balance all
Sadly,
of those variables.
sadly, the chaos theory only works in the very particular situations, but we'll try to extrapolate, and that's one of the goals right now. I will from this year already. I start thinking. I was reading some theory behind the some chaos theory topics because I want to create a couple of not equations but overall theories which can help to I can introduce it in my not winemaking, but I'll say viticultural growth because there are some variables which I can surely point out, the one which
Yeah,
I can see clearly, and based on what I can see clearly, I can start to explaining that part. If it doesn't work because there's some other thing arose, then I will adapt it. So it's step by step. Yeah.
I love that you're blending that 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 expertise, your different areas of expertise. It's incredible to see as well how diverse expertise is so important to adaptation. One final question I have is where do you ship? Do you ship internationally or mainly within
So
Europe?
um, we mm, I would say why it's so. I know that my company already exists for a couple of years, but I was still finding the way how I want to sell this olive oil because we have some good customers who they just write to us and we send them olive oil. But we were selling in China and we're still selling there, but we will stop at the mid of next year because due to the fact that Suez Channel is closed due to all the things happening around the world,
Yeah,
my logistics really breaking like a lot because I need to go around Africa. It takes not like 3 weeks, which is usually took me. It takes me 2 months plus. I lose time. I need to think about the order, how I order my bottles, when I need to bottle it, when it's arrived there. So
yeah,
it's a big it's unnecessary problem. You lose your margins because again, I'm a small producer and the margins there it's
yeah.
very important. So I said, okay, I will finish my stock which I have in China and I will stop for now. Maybe I will find an importer just for some particular customers or find I have some customer base to play with. But my plan is to, from January, we're going to sell just in Europe, UK, Switzerland. Like this will be our main point.
More
And then
localized.
if, yeah, we still tell on our website that if someone from the US, we had some customers there, they want to have this olive oil, they can write to us. We just tell them the shipping and we organize it. It's not a problem. But of course, for all our stock, we probably will concentrate next year just in Europe, UK, Swiss.
Makes sense. Makes sense with the current state of things. Um, Finally, absolutely finally, where can we check out your new websites and follow you for more updates and information on
Uh,
Arsenio?
so we have our Instagram, arsenio.evoo. And then we have also our website is also arsenioevoo.com. It's our, I would say, image website where you just can see the bottles, but our Shopify based website will be released in January. So it will be probably we'll use
Lovely.
arsenioora.com. But it, basically everything around Arsenio, olive oil, and Ora. It's very simple. Yeah. I
Brilliant.
try to
I
keep
will be,
simple names. Yeah.
yeah, I love the name actually. I think it's very slick. It's very like, it just flows off the tongue. But I will be keeping an eye out for that because I do love olive oil. And
Thank
thank
you.
you again so much for joining me today to discuss all things olive oil. I find this a fascinating topic, so I was very keen to sit down with you.
Thank you
But
very
yeah, hugely
much.
appreciate you joining in on this.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for finding time too, because I know I changed my time because I had a very I, unexpected flight to catch, and that's why I need to change.
no
But
worries,
thank you again for yeah.
no
Thank you.
biggie at all. Well, yeah, we'll
Thank
be
you.
in contact then.
Thank
And
you.
take
Have a
care in
nice
the
day.
meantime.
Thank
Likewise.
you.
Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you learned as much as I have about olive oil. Do keep an eye out on our socials for our next episode and further updates.